Love Gary Hamel's quote about today's topic of selling with noble purpose. He said, a noble purpose inspires sacrifice, stimulates innovation, and encourages perseverance. When you're stressing out on the last week of the month or the quarter, selling with noble purpose probably isn't top of mind. That said, Lisa does an exceptional job of making the case for why selling with noble purpose leads to better results, greater job satisfaction, and better retention. In fact, you'll see me recall how and when this concept hit home for me. And I also love that game changer question we can ask ourselves or our people. How will the prospect's business be different as a result of doing business with us? Please take a listen, hit the subscribe button on YouTube, and comment on LinkedIn to share your thoughts. Let's go. Welcome to Coach2Scale, how modern leaders build coaching cultures. I'm your host, Matt Bonelli. Join me as we build a community of like-minded professionals who share the belief that effective coaching improves the performance of every team member. Our mission is to help leaders become better coaches. The Coach2Scale podcast is sponsored by Coachum, the world's first AI coaching execution platform that leverages evidence-based coaching to increase quota attainment. And with that, let's get started. Today's guest has inspired hundreds of companies and millions of people by helping them find their deeper meaning in their work. She's led and trained sales teams at Procter & Gamble. She was invited by renowned Marshall Goldsmith to participate in his 100 Coaches program. She's the best-selling author of several books, including Selling with Noble Purpose, Leading with Noble Purpose, and Triangle of Truth. She's the founder of McLeod More Inc., where she helps salespeople grasp the notion that you don't have to choose between making money and making a difference. Lisa McLeod, welcome to Coach2Scale.
It's such a pleasure to talk with you today.
We'll jump right in. You have a unique perspective. You built and led sales teams. You're in the trenches. You've done a ton of research to support the books that you've put out there. You've heard all the myths probably more times than you care to admit. But Lisa, what's a myth in this business of coaching and leading salespeople and sales managers that you believe is misguided or maybe even complete BS?
The myth is that the top salespeople are solely motivated by money. And the research says that's not the case at all. They may not be self-sacrificing, feed the poor types, but what our research says is even though the best salespeople do want to make money, their true north is improving life for customers. And a lot of times, it was interesting in the research that we did, a lot of times someone will go into sales because they want to make money. And that's me. I, grew up kind of lower middle class, having to wear tough skin jeans. By golly, I was going to make some money after college. You can be a social worker, but I'm going into sales. But then what happens over time, after they get a certain level of success, what they start to realize, this select group of people who wind up being the top 5% of performers, is their true north is I want to improve life for customers. And I want to differentiate here. They are still very assertive. And they don't just say, I want to help my customers, which can be kind of reactive. Instead, they say, I want to make a difference to my customers.
Can we dig into that a little bit? You brought up the difference between being assertive and maybe being aggressive, right? Or being, passive.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, struggling salespeople, and I don't know if they've earned this moniker or not, but the people pleasers, it often has a negative connotation because they're chasing the tennis balls, whatever the prospect asks for.
Yeah.
Hey, send me this proposal, do me this demo, send me this research, I need references. And, we just give them what they want without asking the questions about why. You're talking about something different here, though, when you talk about impacting clients and being assertive. Can you explain further?
So it helps to create distinctions. So we have I'm customer centric, people pleaser, the customer is always right, reactive salesperson. And they're not a bad person. They're trying to please the customer. that person will tend to get very easily commoditized. They will sell at a lower margin. They're very reactive. Then we have the aggressive, the other stereotype, which is this aggressive, I'm about me, I'm going to close it, I'm going to hold my margin, go high, I'm going to just go after this business. And we create this false dichotomy. And what we actually want is not something in the middle. We want something different all entire. And what we want is the person who has that customer ethos, but they're not there to please the customer. They're there to improve the customer. And because they care very deeply about how they can make a difference to the customer, they are assertive, but it is assertive in the service of improving the customer. And so I will give you a very quick example that you'll see night and
Please.
day. Imagine a teacher showing up every day, trying to please her students or his students, versus a teacher who was there to improve them. And we've all had those really great teachers who help you become something bigger than you ever thought you'd be. And they are neither the pleaser nor the jerk disciplinarian that just only cares about their classroom order. They are the person who has set their sights on something higher, and by golly, they're taking you there. That is the exact same ethos that we identified in these, what we call noble purpose sellers, which are the top 5% of sellers. They are very assertive, but they are assertive in the service of improving life for customers because they believe deeply in their hearts that what they're selling makes a difference.
You bring me back to grade school when you talk about the teacher example, and all I can think about is the substitute teacher. And in my world, the substitute teacher, he or she was just trying to get through the hour or whatever. So they were pleasing.
Box and go home.
They're just trying to please you, like whatever it is, just shut up and sit down and let me get through this, versus that teacher who's trying to impact your life. And, so, I don't know, you brought me back 45 years there. So thanks for doing that.
Understand example because the ethos is so clear. What happens though in a sales team is we have the voice of the sales manager in their head going, close it, close it, close it. And we will teach salespeople all these skills, like you need to be a better listener. You need to ask more questions. You need to be a better negotiator. I mean, I've been around the block, as you said, a few times. And all of those skills, number one, they fly out the window when a deal is on the table. But number two, even if they employ those skills, they are in the service of self and closing the business. The subtle nuance that plays out not so subtly in terms of performance and customer response is when those skills of discovery and curiosity and negotiation are in the service of improving life for the customer, which doesn't mean giving the customer everything they ask for. It might mean they know what they want. They might not know what they want. But that's when sales forces adopt this noble purpose. What we find is they sell bigger deals. They sell them at a higher margin. They don't have to rebid the business.
Okay. And so you touched on it so far, Lisa, a little bit, but can you delve a little bit further into the noble purpose concept? Can you explain the core idea behind selling with noble purpose and why you wrote the book in the first place?
So I'll tell you why I wrote the book. I had been a sales trainer and a sales coach and a sales consultant for years, and everyone said, you should write a book. And I thought, I have nothing to add. Neil Rackham wrote Spin Selling, all these other great books are out there. I don't need to write. Yep. And yet, after training a lot of salespeople, I saw that there were distinct differences in who was able to integrate all the things we tell salespeople to do. And the answer to what ended up being my life's work, as it turned out, came to me in a study that I did of a sales team. It was a biotech company, and they wanted us to identify what the difference was between the exceptional performers and the good performers. Because there's a good and bad salesperson. Everybody knows that. They know good salespeople know their product. They ask better questions. They have a discipline of making calls. They do pre-call planning. It's not easy, but it is a set of skills that we know how to teach. What they wanted was, what's the difference between the good and the exceptional? Because it's more nuanced. And we did it as a blind study. We went out and studied all these salespeople looking for, what is that magic thing? What's that magic thing? And we were near the end of the study, and I was with a representative in Phoenix, Arizona. It's hot as the blazes. And this is like a suited up environment because we're going in and out of doctors' offices. It's pre-COVID. And at the end of the day, I was getting on the plane to go to the airport, and we had a really great day. I mean, something very special was happening. And I said, what do you think about when you go on sales calls? And that was not a question on one of our list of questions that we were supposed to ask their background. And she described to me this story. She said, I don't tell this to many people, but I always think about this one patient. This grandmother came up to me grandmother looking type, when I was in one of my doctor's offices, tapped me on the shoulder, asked me if I was the rep for this drug. And she said, thank you for giving me my life back. And so I had this salesperson in this very buttoned up environment that is a science-based environment, that is an environment where cost matters a lot. And she's describing this grandmother, and she's getting really emotional. And she said, that's why I do this job. And that was the moment for me. Got on the plane, flew back to Atlanta where I live, and I unpacked the anecdotal comments of the other representatives. I was looking for this thing that I now call noble purpose. And I found 5 people, including the one. And at the end of the study, the biotech company said, who do you think our top reps are? Because they had us do this as a blind study. And I said, I think it's these 5. And I was right. The problem was I couldn't explain what it was. And so they said, a group of scientists and finance people asked me, well, what was the difference? And I said, well, they had a different story in their heart. Then first thought I was actually right about that, but that's not an answer that a bunch of finance people and scientists could wrap their head around.
So that really touched me, that story. And it made me think of a very specific example with one of our clients, pre-COVID, probably around the same time. And they were a medical device company. And that wasn't our usual, they didn't fit squarely in our ideal client profile. We worked with mostly SaaS companies, B2B technology companies. But I had this contact, CEO of this medical device company, wanted some help skilling up his organization. They sold nasal cannulas, if I'm saying that right, that, and in their words, which I'm paraphrasing, they helped people breathe better. They helped they helped babies adjust to life in the new world, and they helped elderly with be more comfortable at end of life. And it touched me, and it's ironic because today's my son's 23rd birthday. But when my son was born, 9.25 pounds, monster kid, and seemingly healthy. But all of a sudden, a couple of minutes after he was born, he turned blue. And he was in the NICU for 2 weeks, and no one knew why, but he was having a hard time breathing. His oxygen saturation level was going down. And we sat there for 2 weeks just looking at this kid. And we didn't know why it was going on. I mean, there were kids in there that were like 1 pound. And here's this 9.25 pounds. I'm like, what's wrong with this kid? And I just remember how emotional that time was. And when someone says, we help babies adjust to the new world, I'm like, I get that. And I'm like, I could sell this stuff. And I could sell it without having any interest in it, but I felt like I could sell it. And I loved getting in front of that group because I believed in it, even though that wasn't my work. So long story, but here, my question is, how much does the hiring profile need to change to find people? In the case of the person that you're talking about, who told the story about the grandmother, do you have to find those examples? Because I worked at Oracle for 15.5 years, and I'm proud of the success I had, and we had a great team. We did great things. I could give a crap about database technology. I found my passion after, when I got into sales training and sales coaching and how I helped clients then, but I never had sales with noble purpose, so to speak. Really.
So you've just eliminated the problem. So before I answer about the hiring criteria, if you are listening to this and you work for Oracle or you sell accounting services, and I'll use accounting services as the sort of seemingly commoditized, boring thing. The challenge is we fail to recognize how the work makes a difference. So we actually have a client that sells accounting software for small businesses, and their noble purpose, they're not curing cancer, they're not helping a baby stay alive. Their noble purpose is we make small businesses more successful. That's it. And that can inspire you if you personalize it. So when we worked with them, we said, how do you make a difference? And to find your noble purpose, you have to answer 3 questions. How do you make a difference? How do you do it differently? And on your best day, what do you love about your job? And I want to get to the hiring criteria because these 2 things are connected. If I go to interview with a company and they say, "Hey, we're hiring an SDR, we're hiring a sales rep," whatever it is, and we sell accounting services and they go for this much money and you can make this much commission. I mean, I need a job, I might take it. But imagine the difference if I go to that company and they say, "You know what we do? We make small businesses more successful." And one step further, here's Lisa. She owns a small business. She doesn't know anything about accounting, but she lies awake at night worrying about whether she's making any money and where it's going. You know what we do? We help people like Lisa sleep at night. Okay. Here's Matt over here. He owns a bakery. All he wants to do is bake. And we help him organize, do his payroll, do all this stuff. And so the key, does the hiring criteria change? Not exactly. What changes is
Okay.
the story that you tell. The story that you tell, because people always think, well, we're looking for these noble purpose sellers. And our research says that they're about 5% of people, and that wherever they go, they will find that noble purpose. And I will tell you, I also worked with Oracle as a consultant doing selling with noble purpose. And there were those 5% of people there that had a
Absolutely.
sight line to how they made a difference. The challenge is there's some people that aren't going to be good at this job no matter what. That's the other 5%. But it's the middle of the bell curve. And the challenge is when you give voice to what do we do here? We sell accounting, sell more accounting, sell more accounting, sell more accounting, sell more accounting software, whatever it may be. You're missing a huge opportunity to tap into that noble purpose. So the first thing you do is you define your noble purpose, which could be as simple as we make small businesses more successful. But then the storytelling that you do about how that affects a real live human being, that's the essential element. Because once we get beyond food and shelter, people need 2 things: belonging and significance. I'm part of something bigger than myself, and my role matters. And when you speak to that in the interview process, yes, we sell accounting software, but here's how it affects people. And your job will be able to find those people and help them. I'm going to attract a totally different set of people.
So powerful stuff. Now, Lisa, you mentioned you work with these companies and you find those 5%. And we also talked about the movable middle. And I could make the argument that as leaders oftentimes spend too much time with the top 5 or 10% and the bottom 5 or
Yep,
10%, and not enough time with that movable middle. But those are the folks that are going to make a difference, right? In mass, if this group goes a little bit up to the right, it's a seismic shift in terms of performance
absolutely.
and results. And I think human beings, we're wired. Human beings want to help other human beings, right? All the research shows that. It doesn't always feel like that, but the research is very clear that that's the case. My gut tells me that organizations suck that life out of people inadvertently, meaning like someone wants to do well, someone wants to help clients, but maybe the culture, maybe the words that are used, maybe some of the actions, the way things are handled say, hey, don't care about the customer, do this
Right.
instead. And again,
It's
it's not written down anywhere. It's not said directly. It might be implied. What do you think of that?
what happens for 2 reasons. One, it happens because of a shareholder primacy model, and people do not understand what the difference is between leading and lagging indicators. So people manage to the numbers, manage to the numbers, manage to the numbers. That doesn't work. The numbers are a lagging indicator. The only thing you can do, you can manage your numbers, do this lever, do that lever. At a banking client of ours who's actually on the cover of American Banker as mid-sized banker of the year. And he said, after going through this process, I learned I manage to the numbers, but I lead to the noble purpose. So I said there are two reasons. The first one is people are managing to lagging indicators, and financial metrics are always lagging indicators. Instead, they want to be leading to, here's how we make a difference to our clients. It doesn't mean you don't care about the money, but the money is the result of the beliefs and behaviors of the team. Start with belief and behavior, you build on skill. So number one, organizations that tell people care about the customers, but the most important thing to us is the money. They wonder why they're commoditized to their customers. That's why. The senior leaders need to keep their eye on the money, and they need to manage the money. But the primary language that you go down with is the money is a measurement of how we're performing with customers. So I said there were two reasons. One is shareholder primacy, which is managing to a lagging indicator, which doesn't make any sense at all, but we do it every day. But the second is what I call the concrete cascade. And the concrete cascade is the more concrete and cut and dried something is, the easier it is to pull all the way through the organization. So if I'm the CEO and I have a story about how we made a difference to a customer, an individual customer, which, by the way, individual stories are more interesting than collective stories. That's why on those Save the Children ads, you always see that one cute face. Yeah, because human beings
Oh,
are
yeah.
wired. So the concrete cascade is I say, here's where we are on the numbers, and the numbers are reflective of how we make a difference to customers. Let me give you a story about how we made a difference to this one customer and why we want to do more of it. Well, if I'm the CEO and I'm saying that, those numbers are just going to go down, 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 down on a spreadsheet till they get to the very frontline employee. But the likelihood of that story going down is next to none unless I'm intentional. I have got to be intentional about we are part of the culture is that we tell stories about how we make a difference to our customers. Because if I'm a
Okay.
seller and all I have in my head is numbers, 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 what am I going to go say to the customer? I don't have a compelling story for the customer. But if I have in equal measure, you don't have to give up the
Wait,
numbers, but if I have
you can't say I have your company name on my whiteboard with the dollar amount of the
yeah,
forecast, and I need to draw a line through it that says closed. I can't do
so
that.
help me out here. Yeah, and that is literally what we do. I can tell you read the book because I'm in the sales meeting. I've got all the people on my virtual board, my actual board, and we need to close this. Ready, set, break. Everybody go close it. Well, what is in my ear? If I'm a
Yeah.
sales manager and I say, who had a win this week where they made a difference to the customer, and we tell 3 stories about how we made a difference to the customer, and then I say, let's go get 10 more this week. That's a different story.
Love that. So, a good segue into a question I really wanted to ask you. You, in your book and on your website, also, by the way, I love it because it's very clear what you do and how you help. And it's got numbers. Again, numbers aren't bad. It's simple to understand, and you have these amazing results that you help your clients achieve, and you talk about the impact that they had on their clients. How do others what is one or two things that companies can do to go more in this direction in terms of focusing on selling with noble purpose and not just focusing on the lagging indicator of the result?
I'll give you a couple things. First of all, don't create a false dichotomy in your mind. The numbers are a lagging indicator of how you're doing. So you got to get really clear on that. And this can be done from any seat you're in. If you're the CEO listening, you're going to language this. If you are a sales manager, if you are a sales rep, the numbers are the result. It's just like a runner and their times. If I just shouted at a runner, go faster, go faster, go faster, they're going to go a little bit faster. A little bit for a little while. I got to look at strength and conditioning. I got to look at their stride. I got to look at their start. Okay, that's all I know about running. So I've exhausted that metaphor. But so the first thing is get really clear the numbers are a lagging indicator. The second thing you can do is answer those 3 questions. How do we make a difference? How do we do it differently? And on your best day, what do you love about your job? So when you think about how do we make a difference, it's back to our accounting software. We help people sleep at night. We help people focus on what actually matters, which is being a baker. And then how do we do it differently? This is where you get into qualitative things. Maybe you got faster software, or maybe you just care more. Maybe you care more. Maybe you dig deeper. Maybe you stand by them longer. Maybe you ask better questions. But the more you can focus on that, that's your story. You may come up with your noble purpose. You may already have a purpose statement in your business that you got on your website. It doesn't mean anything. And you want to lean into that. So the first thing is know that numbers are a lagging indicator. The second thing is be clear on how you make a difference to customers. And the third thing is, and this is something anybody can do, there's more to this methodology, but I'm giving you the shortcut, is what we call the game-changing question. And the game-changing question is simple. How will this customer be different as a result of doing business with us? So here's how you can ask this. If you're the CEO and one of your people wins a big deal, ask it. How will the customer be different? How will the customer be different as a result of this deal? If you're a sales manager and one of your reps is showing you, you're coaching them and they're about to go in to close a deal, ask them, how will the customer be different? If you're a seller and you are scoping out, I'm calling on this person, keep that question in your mind. How will they be different? What impact will this have on them? That acts as your true north. So like literally from whatever seat you're in, if you do those 3 things, understand my numbers are a lagging indicator. Or 2, ask the questions to identify how we generally make a difference to customers. And then in specific situations, ask, how will this customer be different? And I want you to hear this question. The question is not what's your value prop. When people answer that, they generally come up with, we're the number 1 solution for end-to-end services. And
Right.
But it's not going to make anybody's heart beat faster. But when you say, we're going to help Matt the baker sleep at night and focus on his business and be more organized and pay his employees on time, then I'm more excited about doing it if I'm a seller. I'm more excited about selling it, and it's going to radiate out to the customer.
So when you say it, I get it. Like, and I think everyone listening will say, wow, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. My sense is not everybody implements it out of, as you say, to right away and achieves these great results. It's a process. Where do you see your clients struggling, right, with that first time they stub their toe in trying to implement this?
So we do consulting, and I'm an executive coach, and we run a lot of workshops. And I'll tell you where people stumble. So we train people, and there's some other elements, the methodology, and we work with them to name and claim their purpose. Where they stumble is when there's a setback or when there's uncertainty. When there's
Explain, like, what do you mean by, like, what's a setback and what do you mean by uncertainty?
Didn't get the deal. The market went down. The competition got, a better, technology than us. Some setback. Something that happened. And we saw this during the recession. The 2009, 2010 recession. There's some really solid research on this. Everyone was affected. You can have all the noble purpose you want. There's a recession. Everyone was affected. But the companies that were asking in the face of a setback, how can we make more money? How can we make more money? How can we make more money? Did not do as well coming out of that recession. In fact, it was they did 350% worse than the company who asked the question, how can we improve life for our customers? Now, that doesn't mean you don't still need to make payroll and make your margin and all that. But what is the central organizing question? And it's like if all of a sudden you and I were teachers in a school and our test scores went down, all of a sudden, because
Oh, yeah.
we got all the kids that had spent 2 years at home during COVID and they didn't learn US history. And guess what? You and I got, and the test scores are down. If that principal comes in and says, test scores are down, get them up, get them up, get them up. No. What's going on with our constituents, in this case, customers or students? How can we get them where we need them to be? So in the face of setbacks. And then the other thing that happens is in times of uncertainty. So a setback is when things have gone badly and we gravitate back towards ourselves. Uncertainty is when we can't see the road ahead because technology is changing, the market's changing. And we come back into ourselves and we say, what can we do? When the answer is what's happening, the better question is what's happening with our customer. And one need look no further than Blockbuster and Netflix to see when the market started to shift, Blockbuster put overpriced candy at their checkout to raise margin, which changed a pleasurable experience into a gauntlet you now had to run with your 5-year-old with the overpriced candy at the checkout. And Netflix asked a different question. Blockbuster was asking, how can we improve our margin? Netflix was asking, how can we give people great entertainment at home?
Yeah.
One asked a question about themselves. The other asked a question about the customer.
So you talk about purpose, a higher purpose or a stronger purpose, a noble purpose can drive better results. And I remember thinking, okay, so you're talking about the link of a sense of purpose with better results. And I don't know if you did this in the book or it was in my head, contrasted that versus like the incentive trips.
Yeah.
And things like that. Can you talk a little bit about the, purpose versus, incentives?
So just to be clear, nothing wrong with incentive trips. I've been on some, I've won some, and there's nothing wrong with commission. Absolutely nothing wrong with rewarding people. Having said that, I can tell you who's going to close. Well, I'll ask you. If I've got 2 salespeople and one is sitting in front of the customer going, God, I want this incentive trip so bad I can taste it. Close it, close it, close it. Just sign on the dotted line. This one's going to put me over the edge. And another salesperson is sitting in front of the customer going, what's that customer's biggest challenge? And how can I help them solve it? That second person is going to be more likely to be the one that winds up in Bora Bora. Because what incentives do is they drive activity. So you may, with an incentive, get more sales calls out of your reps with an incentive. What they don't do is they don't teach skill. It doesn't improve skill one iota. And so when you think about those incentives to drive activity, that's a perfectly fine thing to do and to have the incentive trip. But if every day I'm sitting here going, who's going to Bora Bora and who's not, then I'm not improving sales behavior at all. And oh, by the way, only 10% of people are going to Bora Bora, and it's probably the same 10% every year because they're the ones that are already thinking like this. They're already the noble purpose sellers. And so I want to compare the difference. Imagine I'm giving out the awards and I say, here's Matt. He's our #1 salesperson. He's so much better than the rest of you. He made all this money for himself and the company. Here's his big check. All hail Matt. Okay, that's great. If I'm nice, I'll give you a little nice clap. If I'm like most competitive salespeople, I think he had an easy territory. I'm taking him down next year. But now let's reframe it. Here's Matt, our #1 salesperson. You know why he's #1? Because he made a difference to 100 customers, and now we're going to hear from one of them. You know what? All the rest of us made a difference to our customers too. Matt did more than anybody else. Let's all be like Matt. It's an entirely different experience because with trips and all of that, I'm rewarding the people because the revenue was the lagging indicator. So the revenue is there, but I am rewarding the people and I'm lifting up their behavior, which was they improve life for customers. Matt had this one customer and they said no, and Matt knew our solution could make a difference to them. So he went around the back door, he went to this person, he went to this person, and he finally closed it because he was finally able to show them that this could make a huge improvement in their operation. That's the kind of tenacity I'm trying to build.
So I'm a big fan of managers and coaches and leaders asking their people questions that their people can ask the prospect or client.
Right.
And so, I mean, it doesn't seem like there's any issue with the sales rep saying to the prospect, "Hey, Lisa, we've been spending a lot of time here talking about this stuff. How is this going to, really impact and positively change your company and your life working at that company?"
Yeah, you absolutely can ask the customer that. And tone is everything. And we, you and I look like we're about the same age. So we lived through the sales training where people told us.
I look a lot older, but okay, I got the gray hair.
But we've been through that sales training where people said, ask the customer, if I could show you a way to do it cheaper and faster, would you do it? We asked that with no customer intelligence. It's manipulative because we're trying to goad the customer into, well, sure.
Right.
If we ask that exact same question after we've gotten a lot of customer intelligence and we say, so if I could solve this and we could help you with this, would that be helpful? Tone is everything. Tone and context is everything. That question is manipulative when you're asking it with no customer intelligence. And you're asking it so they say yes, and then you go, well, guess what? I can. When you're asking it out of true curiosity, well, we've talked about 6 different things. I think I can help you with 2 of them. Would that put a dent in some of the, situations you're facing here? It would. Okay, let's go. Then it's a very different type of question. And so when you talk about managers asking the questions of sellers, when managers say, what are this customer's biggest challenges? What does success look like for them? What does lack of success look like for them? Which are some of the prompting questions in the book. The rep can literally ask those questions exactly verbatim of the customer. And here's the great thing. Your reps get used to you asking, how will the customer be different? That is a question that drives behavior. When are you going to close it does not drive behavior.
Well, I would imagine that a lot of the answers to the question to how is this product or service going to impact, change the customer's world, impact them positively. I would imagine the answer is, I don't know. Not really sure. There's got to be, what is a good answer sound like? Use conversational intelligence. Like, here's some answers that we've heard, because it's not something that people are generally used to asking.
They don't ask it. And if I'm a manager and my rep has a sales call tomorrow and I say, how will this customer be different as a result of doing business with us? And my rep doesn't have a good answer, the likelihood of us closing that is very small. And the reason I said 24 hours in advance is we still have time to fix it.
So if you have 24 hours, how do you fix it? So let's just say you asked me.
Okay, if I ask you, let's assume it's presentation call time. So you've already done your discovery. I would ask a different set of questions. And you're now saying, hey, Lisa, I got my call tomorrow. I got my deck all ready. And you've got your standard deck that we do for everybody. And it's not, personalized at all.
We personalized it because we switched the logo.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, see, it's just for them. How will this customer be different? And you say, I don't know. We had 24 hours. So what I would say is, let's look back over some of your call notes. What do you think their biggest issues are? If nothing else, let's go on their website and see what their CEOs say. Let's go on a couple of their social media feeds. If we don't do anything else at this point, and you have terrible call notes because you've not asked any questions or you write down the answer, at the very least, we can go find something their CEO said, maybe something your buyer said, and start with that. So we say, I know this company, let's do a meta moment here. I know that your noble purpose is to make small businesses more successful. We have some ideas that can help you with if I'm calling on the accounting company. Even if I just say, I know you said that you're going into XYZ market and that your strategy is to this. At the very least, pick it off the website. Ideally, if you're a sales rep, I'm trained you better than that. And you've got some discovery and you come sit down for our prep call and you say, well, I know what their challenges are. I know what their goals are. They've defined success and lack of success. And I have those at the front of my presentation. What I need help with is connecting the dots to our solution. Okay, that's a call. We have a very good chance of winning the business.
All right, let's yeah, that's awesome stuff. Let's pivot a little bit. You founded McLeod More. You've been doing this 30 plus years. You have successful books, a successful coaching practice. What keeps you at it? What's your noble purpose?
So the big dent in the universe that I want to put is this challenge that we have, this false choice that we've created between making money and making a difference. Because whenever we talk about noble purpose, people think about teachers and social workers and nurses, and all of those are noble professions. But I believe that capitalism can be a force for good. Just like anything can. Families can be a force for good. They can also suck and ruin people's lives. So, but I believe that most of us are going to work in some form of business, and the business is going to exist, and that it does play a really important role in society. And at two levels, I believe, at the larger level, a business should be making a difference to their customers. They should have good ESG metrics and be a good corporate citizen and all that. But that's ancillary. It's important, but it's not my lane. My lane is around the true north of your business should be improving life for your customer. And when you do that well, you make money. So that's the larger, the macro. The micro for me is one of the advantages of being my age is my parents are no longer living. So you can kind of talk about your family without worrying about it getting back to them. And I had one parent that loved their job and one parent that hated their job. And they both experienced two completely different lives. And so did everyone they work with, and so did their family. And so I want to eliminate this false dichotomy between making money and making a difference. And I believe that everyone should show up with that feeling that I'm part of something bigger than myself. It might be accounting systems. I got one company that works with us. It's a concrete company, which might not seem like the sexiest thing in the world, but concrete holds up half the world. So it's pretty important. And I want everyone to be able to show up knowing my company's work makes a difference and I make a difference. My work matters, because life is too short to do meaningless work.
Amen to that. Where's the best place for people to go to learn more about your work and selling with noble purpose?
You can follow me on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, right?
Well, Selling with Noble Purpose. You'll find our website if you're interested. I do keynotes and consulting, but if you just follow me on LinkedIn, that's free. We post tons of videos. And I'll tell you the other thing that I'm working on. I feel compelled to bring this up now. Maybe someone's listening in the universe. My daughter is my business partner, and she has a background in industrial psychology. And we are working on a business makeover show where we want to do a business makeover for small businesses. And it has the practicality of a restaurant impossible, only we're nice, like the Queer Eye.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, good for you. And to be able to work on that with your daughter is something super special, I would
She has
imagine.
really taken this business to the next level. Came out of advertising, and man, then she got a master's degree in training and industrial design. And oh my God, he has really taken it to the next level.
Great stuff. So, Lisa, a lot of people that come on this show, right? This show is called Coach2Scale, right? And we care about coaching and developing people and making an impact in their lives. But people who like yourself who come on this show that care about this stuff usually have this behavior modeled for them somewhere along the way. Who is a mentor, someone important in your life whose coaching and mentorship had an impact on your career?
A lot of people. One person was my father, who worked for the federal government, who made a big difference to me. I will tell you, I was 30 years old before I realized that every government employee doesn't have a chart in their office. How much money we've saved the American taxpayers. He worked in banking regulation and tried to keep banks from going under. And I thought everyone had that. So he made a big difference to me. I'll also tell you that I wrote about in the book. I had a first boss when I went out, not when I was at P&G, but when I went to work for this training company, who was the VP of sales. And without knowing he was doing it, and he and I are still friends, he would talk to me about, now this is going to make such a difference to the customer. We were selling these big training programs, and think of all the people that are going to be excited about this. And part of his enthusiasm for making a difference is why I left management at P&G and joined this little bitty training company. I was so excited I couldn't stand it. But I realized that he baked that into me. I already had the seeds of it, but he got it baked in. And then I have another mentor, a woman who's in her 80s now, and I just went to go see her. And she really challenged me to do something big and bold and exciting with my third act. So I think it's really important to have mentors that are older than you, that are where you want to go. But I also am working on this TV show, working in a screenwriting program, and I've got some mentors there. They're 25 years old.
Dude, 25 years. Say that again.
They're 25 years old, but they know more about
Oh,
this than I do.
yeah. So on the topic of coaches, and maybe this you haven't never thought about this question, and if so, we'll just go on to something else. But I ask a lot of all the guests lately, who's your favorite coach? So when I say that, I'm thinking someone out there in the universe that many people would know the answer. It doesn't have to be sports related, but someone fictional, or nonfiction or fiction, who would identify as some form of coach or mentor. Anything come to mind?
Yeah, two. One coach I didn't mention, which is Marshall Goldsmith, who's America's CEO
Yeah.
coach, and he has mentored
Yeah.
me. And one of the sessions he did with Alan Mulally, and Alan was former CEO of Ford, and he and Alan talked about how they turned around Ford. That was life-changing for me. It was about 3 years ago, and they did a session for about 100 of us talking about that. And the other person, it seems like a very trite answer, but it has made a huge impact in me, and it's Oprah. And I say Oprah because she gave us the language to understand what's underneath. And when she interviews people, we watch her learn, and we watch her lean into other people, and we watch her lift them up. And, as a young parent, she doesn't even have any children, but some of the shows she did on parenting were just transformative for me. And so what I love about her is she's always learning, and she's finding the thing and telling you, I think this would be helpful for you, and come learn this with.
So thank you for the answers and thoughtful answers. I think this is roughly the 45th show that we've recorded, and we have 2 votes for Oprah. So, that's a good percentage. Good percentage.
Right.
She's made an impact in millions, maybe millions of people's lives. So great. Like, as we close out here, Lisa, if there's one topic or maybe even a micro topic that you can't get enough of these days? You're reading about it, you're listening to podcasts, you're finding out as much as possible about that topic. What is it and why?
How our beliefs develop. That is fascinating to me at every level. How your beliefs develop as a baby. By the time you're 1.5, you already have a worldview of whether the world is good and people will help you or not. And it's before you have the language to know it. And how your beliefs, everything from how your beliefs develop about work. I mean, one thing we've encountered is there's tons of people that think work is supposed to suck. So raise them. And so it's really fascinating to me how belief develop, either when you're young and your neural pathways are forming, or when you go to work for a company and you hear a couple of anecdotal comments. It's fascinating because everything comes from belief. So I've been reading a lot about that lately.
Yeah, we've trained a lot on the whole belief wheel. Beliefs lead to thoughts, thoughts lead to action, actions lead to results, and negative, self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Yeah. Yeah, and work's a 4-letter word, right? I mean, we've all heard that. What kind of head trash does that put in our skull?
Well, and a lot of it was from parents that had to work really crummy jobs.
Yeah.
Or believed they had crummy jobs and maybe had crummy bosses. But the problem is if you believe that work is terrible and then you have a terrible boss, you're in this big transactional thing, you're not going to have the power to try and make it any different because it's matching your belief.
Well, Lisa, we've covered a lot of ground, and I really appreciate you investing the time. And this was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for asking such a good question.
We talked about the importance of purpose. We've talked about game-changing questions. You gave some actionable advice, the 3 questions. Don't assume that, don't create a false dichotomy, assuming that it's all about the result, right? It's more about the behavior. So this is great stuff. And I know by listening that if people are looking for this, there is something they can sink their teeth into here and apply it immediately after. I certainly know that I can, and I thank you for that. That's why I love doing this. So, and for everybody out there, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe so that you get more information. You're kept abreast of what's going on and when new shows are dropped. And most importantly, engage and let us know what you'd like to see more of, guests that you'd like, topics that you'd like. We want to bring the most interesting guests and the most helpful topics to you on a weekly basis. So thank you. And until next time, coach them if you want to keep them. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Coach2Scale, How Modern Leaders Build Coaching Cultures. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at coachem.io. That's COACHEM.io. And follow us on Twitter at CoachemNow. See you all next week. Thanks for joining. And remember, coach them if you want to keep them.